All right, everybody, buckle up because we're diving headfirst into the exciting world of San Francisco local government in this deep dive.
That's right. We're talking about those thrilling Board of Supervisors meeting minutes, specifically from July 23rd and 30th, 2024.
We're talking about the real nitty-gritty here, the stuff that usually flies under the radar but actually has a huge impact on your life in the city.
Exactly. It might seem a little dry at first glance, but trust us, there's some real drama hidden in these pages.
Drama. Tell me more.
Well, first off, at both of these meetings, we've got some absent supervisors.
Really? Is that normal? Like, do they just skip out for a long lunch break sometimes?
Haha, well, it's not quite as scandalous as that. Supervisors have incredibly busy schedules. The key is that they maintain a quorum, which basically means having enough members present to make official decisions.
Okay, quorum, got it. So let's jump into it. Something from the July 23rd meeting that really stood out to me was this thing called a charter amendment fast track. It sounds kind of important.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Essentially, the board voted to speed up the process for a charter amendment that deals with, get this, police staffing and retirement.
Whoa, hold on. Let's rewind for a sec. What exactly are we talking about when we say charter amendment?
Right, good point. Think of the city charter like San Francisco's rulebook, its very own constitution. Amending it is kind of a big deal, not something to be taken lightly. It usually involves a whole process of public input and careful consideration.
Which makes this fast tracking even more intriguing. So what was the rush? Why push this through so quickly?
That's the million-dollar question. Unfortunately, the meeting minutes don't give us all the juicy details, but they do reveal something pretty interesting. There was some serious pushback from the public.
Oh, spill the tea.
Well, it turns out a lot of people were not happy about this fast-track timeline, and they made their voices heard loud and clear. The opposition was actually so strong that the board was basically forced to reopen the public comment period, which is not something that happens every day.
Wow, talk about people power. That's pretty amazing to see citizens making a difference like that.
Absolutely. It shows that even when it comes to these complex, and let's be honest, sometimes kind of controversial, topics like police staffing, San Franciscans have a say in how their city is run.
I love it. And that, my friends, is exactly why we do these deep dives. You never know what kind of hidden gems of civic engagement you're going to uncover. It's like we're getting a behind-the-scenes look at how decisions are made in this city.
Exactly. It's like a crash course in San Francisco civics. But let's get back to the July 30th meeting. The budget was a big topic that day, and it looks like there was a lot to unpack.
Oh, budget talks. Those are always lively. Did they happen to discuss my proposal to replace all the parking meters with cotton candy machines? Just throwing it out there.
While your cotton candy idea is intriguing, it looks like they focused on slightly less delicious but equally important matters. For instance, the Our City, Our Home Fund. You know, that one funded by a tax on high revenue businesses.
Oh, yeah, that's the one specifically aimed at addressing homelessness, right?
That's the one. And in this meeting, they decided to move around a chunk of that money, about $13.6 million.
Whoa, that's a significant chunk of change. Do we know why? What prompted this reallocation?
Well, the minutes don't exactly give us a detailed breakdown of the why, which I think just adds to the intrigue. They mention the shift, but they don't spell out the initial allocation, so we're left to do a little detective work here.
Ooh, I love a good mystery. So what are we thinking? Why move that much money around?
Well, one possibility is that it reflects a change in strategy. San Francisco's approach to tackling homelessness has been, shall we say, a hot topic.
An understatement, perhaps.
Yeah.
So this reallocation, you're thinking it might be a course correction based on what's working, what's not.
It's certainly possible. Maybe certain initiatives are showing more promise than others, or maybe there's a new understanding of the challenges faced and how to best address them.
It really makes you think about the complexities of this issue and all the factors at play. What other budgetary decisions caught your eye?
One that seemed pretty significant, even if it doesn't sound super exciting at first glance, is the decision to give businesses more time to comply with those disability access requirements.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. Accessibility for everyone should be a top priority, right?
Yeah.
They're pushing back the deadlines for businesses to get up to code.
Exactly. It seems like they're amending the building code, although the specifics aren't laid out in the minutes.
I wonder if it was influenced by concerns from smaller businesses,
Hmm.
about the cost, or maybe even just the logistics of making those changes.
That's a good point. It's a tough situation, right? Because accessibility is non-negotiable, but we also don't want to place an insurmountable burden on businesses, especially the smaller ones, that are already dealing with a lot.
Right. It's all about finding that balance. But this really highlights how even what seem like small tweaks to city code can have a ripple effect on so many people's lives.
Absolutely. It's not always the big, flashy headlines that have the biggest impact. Sometimes it's these smaller decisions that hit closer to home. Speaking of which, can we talk about the fund funding for a minute?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Always a fan of the fun funding. Tell me, where's the city spreading a little joy this time around?
Well, one bit of good news is that they awarded a grant to the Boys and Girls Clubs.
Fantastic. I'm always happy to see them get support. They do incredible work with young people across the city.
Hmm.
What else?
They also allocated some funds for neighborhood events in the Sunset District. Think block parties, street fairs, all that good stuff.
I love it. It's a good reminder that at the end of the day, these meetings, with all the rules and procedures, are really about people and building a sense of community.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, we can't talk about San Francisco without addressing the elephant in the room, or should I say, the algorithm in the room.
Oh, yes. You're talking about that debate on using algorithms to set rent prices. That was a big one.
Definitely a hot button issue here in Tech Central.
So, what were the main arguments on each side of this proposed ban on algorithmic rent setting?
So those in favor of the ban argued that algorithms, despite their seemingly neutral calculations, can actually end up making existing inequalities in the housing market even worse. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Can you really capture all the nuances of the housing market with an algorithm?
Exactly, and that was their concern. These algorithms often prioritize things like, profit maximization, which sounds logical on the surface, right? But advocates worried that they might not take into account all those real-world factors that affect affordability.
And that could lead to some people, especially those who are already struggling, getting priced out of their homes.
Exactly. But of course, there's always another side to the story. Those who opposed the ban argued that getting rid of these algorithms could actually stifle innovation in the tech sector.
Interesting. So their argument was essentially that this kind of regulation would hinder progress.
Right. And they also worried about unintended consequences. Like, what if banning these algorithms actually ended up driving rents up even further?
How could that happen?
Well, they argued that removing the data analysis that these algorithms provide could lead to less informed pricing decisions overall, which could negatively impact both landlords and tenants.
So it's a complicated issue with no easy answers. What was the final verdict? Did the board decide to risk stifling innovation, or did they side with the tenant advocates?
Well, get this, the board actually voted to pass the ban, at least on the first reading.
Wow, that's a big win for those who supported the ban.
Right, but it's important to note that this isn't a done deal just yet. It still needs to go through a few more hoops, more approvals, and there might even be some revisions along the way.
Still, it's a pretty clear signal that the city is paying attention to these concerns and is willing to take action. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground already, but before we wrap things up, I hear there's a heartwarming story we need to get to.
Oh yeah, the July 30th meeting wrapped up with a really nice moment. The board took some time to recognize some folks who've dedicated their careers to serving the city.
Always love to hear about the people behind the scenes, the ones who keep things running. Who are they celebrating?
So first up, they honored retiring Fire Chief Jeanine Nicholson.
Fire Chief Nicholson, I know that name. She's been a familiar face in San Francisco for years, hasn't she?
30 years to be exact, including the last 5 as chief.
Wow. Talk about dedication. That's incredible. Anyone else received some well-deserved recognition?
They also recognized Ann Pearson, who was stepping down from her position as legal counsel to the Board of Supervisors.
Legal counsel, huh? That sounds like, I don't know, kind of an intense gig. What do they have to say about her time in the role?
They praised her for being like the calm in the storm, providing sound legal advice and guidance, even during those heated debates, which I'm sure there are plenty of. They commended her patience and grace. It sounds like she played a vital, if often unseen, role in city government.
It's a good reminder that behind all these votes and policies are real people working hard to make this city tick.
Exactly. They're the ones shaping San Francisco every single day.
Well, we've covered so much ground today. From police staffing to disability rights to that fascinating debate about algorithms and rent control, I feel like we've really gone deep.
We really have. And I think the key takeaway here is that local government, it's not just some abstract thing. It's not happening in a vacuum.
That's about your life, right?
Exactly. It's about how your tax dollars are being used, the services available in your neighborhood, the very rules that shape your daily life here in San Francisco.
And perhaps even more importantly, it's about making your voice heard. Just like those folks who spoke out against that fast-track charter amendment.
Right. You have a voice, and it matters.
It really does. And speaking of using your voice, dear listeners, we've got a little challenge for you. Or maybe it's more of an invitation.
We've only scratched the surface of these meeting minutes. There's a whole world of information in there just waiting to be explored. And the best part is these are public records, accessible to anyone.
That's right. So we encourage you to put on your detective hats, grab your magnifying glasses, and dive into the full meeting minutes yourselves.
We'll be sure to include the links in the show notes so you can easily find them. Who knows what intriguing details you might unearth about your city.
Exactly. Maybe you'll be surprised. Maybe you'll be inspired. Heck, maybe you'll even be inspired to attend a meeting in person.
Now, wouldn't that be something? Imagine if our little deep dive sparked a wave of civic engagement across San Francisco. That's the dream.
I love it. All right, everyone. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.